We will be using a transverse screw to provide the compression and a locking plate to provide mechanical support. The locking plate holes are threaded to accept a locking screw. Make a small dorsal incision to expose enough bone on both sides of the joint for the placement of the plate. Carefully free the bone from the soft tissue. After exposing the joint, it may be necessary to reshape the joint using the matched reamers to fit the metatarsal end within the phalangeal end. Drive the K-wire 30 mm into the center of metatarsal head. Use the concave reamer to shape the bone. Remove the wire and repeat the process on the phalangeal end. Check the fit of both ends of the joint. Correct the PASA as necessary. We are now ready to implant the locking plate. The MPJ plate is pre-bent 11 degrees medially and dorsally as well. The bend should be positioned on top or near the joint. Drive a 60 mm K-wire through the two positioning holes, one on each side of the joint. Next, implant 2 screws, one on each side of the joint. The Vilex plate system offers the surgeon the option to use solid or cannulated screws. In either case, the screw should be centered perpendicular to the hole surface. For cannulated screws, use the blue centering tool with the 1.1 mm cannulation. For solid non-cannulated screws, use the gold drill centering tool with the 2.0 mm cannulation. In this demonstration, we will use primarily cannulated and locking screws. Screw the centering tool into the distal hole. Drive the K-wire through the phalanx, making sure the K-wire punctures the distal cortex. Remove the centering tool and use the depth gauge to measure the required screw length. Slide the bronze 22 mm screw over the guide wire and drive the self-drilling and self-tapping screw until the head is screwed into the plate. Remove the guide wire. The second screw, which is non-locking and non-cannulated, is used to compress the arthrodesis site. Position the 2.2 mm drill away from the edge of the compression hole so that when the screw is seated, it pulls the joint together. Drive the drill until it exits the distal cortex. Remove the drill, measure, and drive the screw without engaging the plate. Remove the second pin. Next, add a 3.0 mm cannulated screw medial lateral across the joint. Imagine an oblique line from the phalanx to the metatarsal as shown. Drive a 1.1 mm guide wire medial lateral. Stop advancing after the wire exits the metatarsal side. Measure for the required screw length. Gently countersink. Slide the screw over the wire and use the cannulated screwdriver to drive the screw. Note how the bones are compressed as the screw advances. Advance the cross screw until the head is seated. Remove the guide wire. Tighten the compression screw. Add more locking screws. Repeat the procedure for the remaining available holes, close and suture.